Let's talk business, though, and let's talk about the economy. We've been talking all morning about these target numbers, which just came out, which really reflect this idea that there's a lot of increased costs that seem to be getting passed on. And as somebody who's in this sports world, now the good news about sports, I think, is that a lot of these leagues, the revenue is locked, but the costs are not locked.
Right. Well, although 50% of the cost is locked because it's the players' labor, but that other 50% is a variable. I think the bigger thing to watch in sports will be, does it impact consumption eventually? Higher costs. Do you go to games? Do I buy merchandise? Do I do some of the ancillary activities as a consumer? So far, you haven't seen any of that happen because I think there's a lot of pent-up demand coming out of the pandemic. But that'll be the place I think you'll be more pronounced. Yes, there'll be expense hits to the other 50% of the expenses, but it's not the primary expense of the business. So it'll be less pronounced in sports.
The other conversation that I'm already hearing around here, everybody was talking about Netflix last night in terms of what's happening to the streaming business. That, for many folks in the sports business, was the future. The question is that still the future?
Well, they need sports as part of the problem with Netflix. I mean, look, 90 of the top 100 programs on television are sports. It's the last thing that aggregates big audiences and engages consumers. So sports is a live event, live media.
We're going to be talking actually to David Zaslav in just a little bit later on the program. I'm curious, when you think about the media landscape and how it relates, though, to the valuations of sports teams, given what's happening in terms of unbundling with cable, what happens to all those regional sports networks?
Yeah, so it's going to be different for each sports. I mean, when you think about the NFL with $112 billion in contracted revenue and more coming with Sunday Ticket, I think of the NFL, I feel pretty good. If I have 162 games and I have regional sports networks, they're at the tip of the spear in terms of the transition, and that's going to have to be done carefully because those regional sports networks are going to look more and more to streaming. And what's that economic model look like, and how do you transition? That's a more challenging situation.
But what about, as we've watched the valuations in the public markets come down of media and tech companies, which were in some ways considered the salvation for the rest of sports in some cases, right? Because people thought, okay, a lot of these guys are going to come in and start buying up these rights. Do you think in an environment where the stocks and their own businesses are becoming challenged, that makes it harder for them to challenge these big bids?
Well, I think these bids are staggered over time, and I think again it's the most valuable asset on television. The other thing that sports an opportunity is the lifetime value of the customer.
Right.
And that's new territory, data, technology, engaging consumers. That's a whole new revenue stream that wasn't there, along with gambling. So again, I think sports are highly valuable on media, but I also think the lifetime value of the consumer, I mean, all right, I'm a season ticket holder and you send me my renewal package, but am I interacting with that person every day? Can I do more to monetize that? I think the answer is yes.